What is up, guys? So in this video, I'm gonna be kind of running through how I got into gambling. At this point, I've been sharp sports betting for about 6 years now, and I've made over $800,000 profit. It's been a super fun journey. I've used a bunch of different sports books, but one question that some people ask me is just how did you start realizing sports betting was your thing? This was something you wanted to do as a side hustle and ultimately try to make some money from. I'm kind of gonna give you a little background. Initially, I thought I was going to work in healthcare. When I was in college, I always loved poker. I loved going to the casino with my friends on weekends, and we would just play poker for small amounts of money, or we would play it in the dorm room. I liked the math aspect, the strategy aspect. Poker is very different from, let's say, playing roulette. Poker is a game, right, where there's a lot of math, there's a lot of theory, there's optimal strategies, and I really enjoyed learning about that. So one of my friends recommended that I look into a company called Susquehanna International Group, and this is a company where there's literally a Wall Street Journal article about it. They make you play poker at work. So they basically are big believers that if you understand poker strategy, and you're a good gambler, then you will also be a good trader. You will understand risk. You will understand bet sizing, essentially as a trader, because SIG is a quant trading firm. So I applied for an internship at SIG, and I ultimately got a job at SIG. So basically, as a quantitative trader, SIG was very big believers in making you learn everything about trading. So I literally had tests, I did trading simulators, and for the first 2 years of joining SIG, you're not actually trading real money. You're just learning. They are literally grilling you about options. They really stress to you, we want you to invest in your trading education. They're never letting you risk a dollar of their money, right? When you work at a trading firm, you're not trading your own money. You're typically trading the company's money. They don't want you trading a dollar of their money until you prove that you know exactly what you're doing. So that kind of stuck with me in sports betting. I'm a big believer in invest in your sports betting education. Before I dove into sports betting and started betting larger and larger amounts of money, I tracked my bets ruthlessly. I studied ruthlessly. I read a bunch of books, articles, listened to things about how are the sharp bettors, the syndicates, the pro bettors actually winning. Long story short, I basically just worked as a trader at SIG and played poker on the side for fun until sports betting legalized. So when sports betting legalized in the US, it's on a state-by-state basis. And I basically lived on the Pennsylvania-New Jersey border. So a lot of people at the office essentially started talking about sports betting. They were traders, right? They were people who loved gambling, they loved poker, and they were working all day long in financial markets, trading, gambling in financial markets. So a lot of people were talking about sports betting, all the sports books launching, all of the new sign-up bonuses, all of the sign-up offers. Essentially, one of my bosses and colleagues at the time was telling me, hey, you should do some of these sign-up bonuses. They're literally free money. He helped me out. He knew I was a broke kid just leaving college. So I think one of the first sports books I signed up for was BetRivers. So BetRivers was a $250 deposit match. So basically you deposit $250 and you have $500 in your account. And you just have to play through that initial $250 before you turn it into withdrawable cash. So he basically showed me you can take these sign-up bonuses, you can hedge them against other books, and you can convert them into guaranteed profit. There were like 15 sports books coming into Pennsylvania, 15 sports books coming into New Jersey, and $250 is a lot of money for clicking a few buttons and signing up for a sports book. And once you know the strategy, it's literally free money. So what I started to do on weekends and after work is I would drive to New Jersey, I would do all the sign-up bonuses, and pretty quickly, I made $5,000, $10,000. And then I actually started traveling to other states. So one long weekend, I literally took a flight to Colorado because there was a sports book. I have a video on it. Sports Illustrated Sportsbook had a $7,500 risk-free bet. So what that means is you place a bet for up to 7.5K. So I saved up that money, kind of reinvested my profits. And if you lose that bet, then you get your money back, which is insane if you think about it, right? Usually when you lose a 7.5K bet, you just lose 7.5K. But in this case, you actually get your money back. So again, there's a strategy here. What you can do is you can take this risk-free bet, you can hedge against another sports book to essentially convert this promo into a risk-free profit of about $4,000, which I explained in the video. So I went to Colorado just to do the sportsbook sign-up bonuses, rip all of them. And even after flights and stuff like that, I made at least $4,000 profit. I came back to Pennsylvania and I was getting super invested into sports betting. I was spending time traveling. I was spending a ton of time researching it. And I kind of realized like, hey, I do love trading. I love gambling in financial markets. I thought my job was really fun and I was learning a lot, but I also love sports, and sports gambling, in my opinion, was more fun. So I started to research other strategies. What are other ways that you can actually make money? And I think just being a more data-driven person, playing poker, a lot of the BS in the industry, like, oh, just buy my picks and you're gonna, make money. I've never lost a bet. Stuff like Vegas Dave, that obviously I kind of knew was BS. So I really started to zone in on short betting strategies and read things. What are people doing elsewhere? What's working? And I came across arbitrage. So arbitrage is a financial strategy and it's really effective in niche markets, right? Inefficient markets. So crypto arbitrage used to be a thing and people made a lot of money in crypto arbitrage. But at this point, crypto markets, at least for Bitcoin, Ethereum, are relatively liquid, so there's not a ton of opportunity there. But sports betting, what's really interesting about it is you have hundreds of sports books entering the US, and they're all setting their own prices, their own unique odds. FanDuel wants to be unique. They don't want the same odds as DraftKings, so FanDuel has completely different odds from DraftKings. So arbitrage is a very simple strategy. You can see an example here from Arbitron between two no-limit sports books, Novig and ProfitX, that are legal in nearly every state. So his example was on a player named Anthony Black, but arbitrage is just when you can hedge for a guaranteed profit. You can play the over on one book, the under on a different book, and because they're so out of sync, you can ensure a guaranteed profit. And that's exactly what he did here. You can see the math on the screen. He made $100 risk-free, guaranteed profit. Not particularly bad for clicking a few buttons. So I started to arbitrage bet. I started to look for these plays manually. I started to dabble with creating my own software to find myself arbitrage bets, because the first day I started to do it, I realized, wow, sometimes these sports books are super out of sync. They have way different odds. So I started to arbitrage bet to make money, and I made like $40,000 in 3 months. So I would get up before work, I would look for arbitrage bets, I would go into work, gamble in financial markets, and then I would come home and I would gamble in sports markets with my own money. I would look for these arbitrage bets all night long and all these profitable bets. So from that point on, arbitrage is a great strategy because it's risk-free profit. So you can see there's some guys on Twitter, if you want to learn about arbitrage, they give trainings on it. It's an amazing strategy, and again, what's people love about it is there's no variance. You just win every single day. You're not necessarily getting the highest expected return, but you win every single day. So it's nice to see an all green calendar and just make money day trading these discrepancies between books. But I started to get interested in, well, arbitrage is cool, I'm making money, but are there any other strategies? Like, are there any strategies? I'm willing to try out some riskier strategies. And that's how I ultimately stumbled into middle betting and positive EV betting. So you can see an example of a middle right here on Jackson Smith. So middle betting is basically just like all books have different odds, they also have different lines from one another. So middle betting is, again, you're kind of day trading the books. All of these strategies are data-driven strategies. Middle betting is when you can play the over and the under. Obviously, one of these bets is going to win. You can see the example right here with Jackson Smith. One of these bets is going to win, the over, the under. This middle was between FanDuel and Fliff. But if Jackson Smith falls within like a range of 11 yards, then I'm going to win both plays. I'm going to win my over, I'm going to win my under. You're buying low, selling high. Essentially, that's what you're doing as a middle bettor. And that's the same thing I was doing as a quantitative trader. So I loved sports betting because, again, as a trader, as an investor, you're always looking to buy low and sell high. There's so many recreational bettors who are just like, oh, I love Jackson Smith, take the over on every book. That's not how you think as a sharp bettor. It's what's the price, what's the line, is there a middle opportunity, is there an arbitrage opportunity? So from that point on, I kind of realized I love this sports betting stuff. I'm going to try to do something in the sports betting industry and at least get to bet on sports full time for a living. And worst case, once I quit my job, if sports betting gets, banned again in the United States, I can probably find another job. So I kind of viewed it as an asymmetric bet, where if I quit my job, what's the worst case that can happen? I'll lose a little bit of money. I mean, I was very confident I was going to make some money sports betting, especially because I would have more time to do it. I didn't have to go into an office. So I was very confident I would make at least some money sports betting, but I wasn't positive if I would make more money than just staying as a trader. Ultimately, I figured, hey, the worst case is probably I apply for a job in a year or so, and that would suck, but the pretty low downside. But that's kind of my journey into sports betting, because some people have asked. I hope you found it valuable, and thank you guys so much for your time. Let me know other video ideas. You can comment them.